welcome one and all to this amazing announcement we've got going on for the studio and for the channel. My name is Steven Erickson, and welcome to Craig. How do we say the studio's name again? Let me know.
Yeah, Monitogo Studios. Studios.
Welcome to Monitogo Studios, everybody. I'm your host, Steven Erickson, also known as Brother Steven, also known as Lego Master Steven. With me today, we've got Greg over here. There we go, Greg. And we've got Grace and Gareth and Graham. So, guys, this is awesome. This is a huge announcement for us. This is going to be fantastic. Let's see. Let's start with you, Greg. Let's do some introductions. Let's do some introductions and get the ball rolling here. And Greg, we'll start with you. You're the one spearheading this whole thing. And why don't you introduce yourself and let's let the audience get to know us, and yeah, take it from here, sir.
Perfect. So my name is Greg Toll. I'm the founder and director of Monitogo Studios, and the crazy guy that originally had the idea for Wandering Skies, which will be the film studio's largest project to date, but certainly not our first. So I'm the captain at the helm, for better or for worse, and just doing our best to make this show happen.
Fantastic. And let's move on the wheel here. Grace, how about you? Let's go with you next.
Yeah, I'm the first recruit that Greg brought on board to the crazy ship. I helped him write the show, and I direct a lot of the creative elements, project manage, basically keep the thing running while he does the leading. So yeah, this is my first project, and it's been quite the experience. This is kind of going in on the deep end of the water, so to speak, but it's been fantastic. I'm so excited to be here.
Fantastic.
Quick interjection, by the way, like Grace is killing it from a writing perspective. This story is awesome and definitely something that you guys are going to want to see down the road.
I have to concur because I have read the script. It's been amazing. But yeah, guys down below me, Graham and Gareth, who are you guys?
Well, we are brothers, if you hadn't noticed. But Gareth and I are the builders for the show. I'm currently lead builder, and he's, I guess, assistant builder.
But I'm his right-hand man, I guess.
I kind of get to tell him what to do. But anyway, we're just the builders for the show. We design stuff to create the world and all the stuff like that.
Fantastic. And my responsibilities here on this project as well. Actually, I'll pass that to Greg. Well, Greg, what are my responsibilities on this job here?
That's a great question, Steven. So Steven has been a somewhat more recent addition to the team, but he's already done some great work for us. So he's done some story review and some advising for us, which is awesome. We love getting those outside creative perspectives. He's also joining the build team in league with Graham and Gareth to do some design. And as I'm sure anybody watching this already knows, Steven has crazy building skill. So we're really excited to have him join the team in that capacity. And then he'll also be probably helping us with some character design down the road and just a core team member. So probably the best way I could describe that as somebody that has voice into the project as a whole. So down the road, you might have animators that work on the project, and it's not per se their job so much to speak to the story specifically, that there is an animator, but the core team members, kind of these 5 people that you have right here in this interview, are people that are speaking to the core elements of the design of Wandering Skies as a show.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it better myself. Let's see. Greg, this is a huge undertaking. This is a large project. It didn't start from nothing. How did you start?
Monitogo Studios.
That's the one. How did this all begin?
All right, this clearly my studio name is turning into a recurring joke. That's fine. We'll make this work. I was 14. I wanted to get into film. My older brother was in film, but like my parents didn't have money for that. But we did have a DSLR and Lego, and I saw a Lego stop motion film when I was 13 or 14, and I thought that I could do. I could do that. Like, stop motion just takes time. Well, a lot of practice, but it takes time. And as a 14-year-old, I had plenty of time. So I started learning to do animation. I produced my first short film, A Viking Worth Liking, which was a parable. It was a version of the parable of the Good Samaritan, except it was told with a Viking outcast and Englishman. So obviously that same like cultural despising that, we know the Vikings and the English didn't get along, historically speaking. And that was a 13-minute film that actually made it into a film festival as a junior filmmaker entry when I was 14. It was on the way to that festival. I was 15 at the time when I first came up with the idea for Bound, which is a feature film that I then wrote, directed, and produced from 15 to 21 over 6 very long years. Then Bound was released in, oh, merciful gracious, 2012? No, that's not right. No. 2016. It was a long 6 years.
It was
Yeah.
sooner than 6 years.
Yeah. Okay. So we released Bound, which was the feature film. That's a 50-minute film, which is just a crazy undertaking. And then after that, I did commercial film work for a while, and especially for Bound and the earlier projects, my sister Monica was a huge part of the studio. She was my partner, and she has since gone on to be married and have her own children, and she runs a graphic design company that she's killer at. So I probably lost the better part of Monitogo Studios when she left. But here I am, mucking my way through it anyways. So then we went on to do a number of commercial projects as a studio, and then we produced a short film, Atlas, that was released about 3 years ago now. And that was that was allegorical in nature, but it's about a father and son trying to avert a railroad disaster and some really high stakes in that 5 or 6 minute film. And I meant to take a break after Atlas. I was like, I'm not going to do anything for a while. Like I've been working 80-hour weeks. Like, we'll take a break. Well, lo and behold, that break lasted probably like 5 weeks. Because then when I have holes, I find things to stuff in them. And that's when I first cooked up the idea for Wandering Skies, as this idea of like, well, what would it be if we had a whole world of floating islands and steampunk airships? And so I was originally inspired to start the show from there.
Fantastic. So the Wandering Skies, this is a cool world that we've been working on, especially this team over here, for quite some time. It's a very unique take on the genre. It's a very unique take on world building in general. Where did this specific project come from? What's the origin behind this one? And I think this branches out even further from Greg. But Greg, we'll start with you. Where did the Wandering Skies project, like, what's that origin story?
Yeah, so I was considering what I might want to do as another project after Atlas, and I knew that I wanted to do something really large in scope. That's always been, I don't know, a driving force, I guess, in Monitogo Studios, is
Bigger
trying to
and
sort of,
better.
yeah, 100%. Like, let's redefine the boundaries of what we expect when people see something like brick film. I think for a long time, people thought of it as something that you just kind of do as like fun little videos, on your desk with some desk lamps and a webcam at home. And the push with Bound, and then again with Atlas visually, was to say, well, how do we redefine this? Like, if we just treat it as a medium. So I was knocking around different ideas. And originally there was this idea of like, well, do I do like Sky Vikings? And then somewhere in there settled on doing steampunk airships, which is like a little bit of a known genre, but we're kind of reinterpreting it in our own way. And that was the original concept for Wandering Skies. And I knew that I wanted it to be a Lego stop motion show, which is something very near and dear to the hearts of, I think, everyone on this team. Maybe less Grace. She's super gracious about it, but she's on board now, you know what I mean? And so then I was actually doing some Googling, and I came across a whole series of builds by Steven, your lug from your Lego users group from a number of years ago, called Isles of Aura, which was kind of Steven's baby. And actually some of the very early like promo imagery, just sort of cooking up what even is this world, I pulled from like Flickr streams and stuff from the Isles of Aura. And so that was some very early inspiration for the show in terms of kind of getting a little bit of a foundation, like grounding ourselves in like, what is this? What does it look like? How is the world built out? And then in Los Angeles, a little over 2 years, about 2.5 years ago now, just over 2 years ago, I got together with 3 other writers, one of whom was John Fornoff, who is a really amazing career writer. I mean, he's been doing story writing for like film, TV, and radio for I think 30 years now, something like that. He used to write on Adventures in Odyssey and wrote for that radio show for a long time. He's done a bunch of feature films. So he kind of helped organize and set the foundations for the world building of Wandering Skies. And then that was myself, actually my brother-in-law, Micah Austin, who's also in film. And then Grace was a part of that week in Los Angeles. We just like rented out an Airbnb and ate, slept, and breathed Wandering Skies for like a week straight. And that's where we really cooked up the whole world. What are these cultures? What do they look like? Who are our main characters? What are their motivating force? What does their arc look like? We were inspired a lot by Avatar: The Last Airbender, that amazing TV series, and kind of using that as a little bit of a framework for how we wanted to structure our own storytelling. So I'll let Grace take it some from here because she's now the lead writer and can speak a lot more specifically to the rest of the story elements.
Yeah, go ahead, Grace.
Yeah. So I'm going to tease Greg just a little bit here. I did not know we were having a meeting in LA that week. I was actually doing some other work, and I wake up Tuesday morning of that week to a text from Greg, and he's like, hey, we're doing a writing week in Los Angeles. We're going to carve out Wandering Skies. You want to get on? By the time I woke up to the text, I had about 20 minutes to like decide. Oh, hey, okay. Because we talked a little bit before, and he was like, would you be interested in maybe, being a part of this? And I was like, I'll listen in. Like, I wasn't feeling very confident yet. But when he texted me with no prior warning, I just had to jump. So I get on the phone, and then I don't get off for 6 days.
That's right.
We would get on at like 8:30 in the morning and not get off till 8 something at night, only pausing for, go to the bathroom or eat some food. So it was like the most intense and the most magical week ever, because I'd never gotten to be in an environment like that with such an incredible writer like John Fornoff leading us. And I mean, we went to town. We basically charted out like 4 seasons of an incredible show. We came up with characters. We came up with these really compelling arcs and, humor. I mean, the amount of storytelling that we figured out in that first week was mind-blowing. And at the end of it, we had the first 3 episodes for season 1 actually written. I wrote one, John wrote one, and Greg wrote one. So while they faced, they've changed a little bit since then, those foundations are still there. And that's basically what we built the whole show off of. So since then, I guess I gained Greg's trust over time, just, sharing things, sharing my perspective as a storyteller. It was such an incredible opportunity because I really hadn't done writing on this scale in a really long time. I'd kind of spent a lot of time helping other people develop their stories. What I didn't realize was that actually really prepped me to be ready for this moment. So when I got there, it was like I was able to jump into something that I didn't even realize I was ready for. And it was so fun. And so from that point, then, I kind of like, I would write a few episodes and Greg would be like, okay, get to edit some things, and that would be fun. So finally it's like, you know what, I'm going to hand it to you. You're a head writer. So yeah, that's super cool. And since then we have developed even more from that week. So many amazing characters, amazing stories. I have side stories in my head that I just have to ignore right now to do the main story. So much world building. I'm really inspired personally by Star Wars storytelling, how big the world gets and how exciting it is and how much you want to explore that world, how the characters interconnect. So we've tried to pull from the greatest influences to make something that is a one-of-a-kind experience. And I think that's what it will be.
And actually, I'm going to interject here really quick. So, sorry, Grace, about no heads up on the week in LA.
Oh,
yeah, we batted it around, you know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I need to reach out to Grace about this because I've been making plans with everyone that was like 100%, I'll be there. So that happened. But I will say this at the end of that, more than once throughout the week. And then at the end of the week, I mean, John Fornoff was absolutely like the most veteran writer in the room. And he said, he's like, this is the most productive writer's room I have been involved in my career, just in terms of what the fluidity was like and the camaraderie between the writers. And John said this to me more than once. He goes, I can't believe Grace has never done this before.
Aww,
he's like, the fact that she has this much of a depth of understanding of the storytelling and the development and like character motivation and arcs, he's like, that's crazy to me that she's never done this before. He's like, you found a gem with this writer. And I believe that. And it's been really fun to see Grace flourish as a writer as she continues to develop this project. So not a ton of professional experience, but loads of foundational experience that have led into the development and the embellishment of the world of Wandering Skies.
And,
Oh,
and when they,
good.
and when they said that it was a week long, you could hear the conversation on the
For a
phone
week long.
in the whole house.
Oh, my word.
Sorry, boys.
Next door neighbors, right?
Talking. By the end of it, you're like,
Have you ever heard, the torture method of the single thread? Like
Any
that
torture
for
going
an
on?
entire
Oh,
week.
my word.
The family was on edge.
it was like so great, but also like got the end of the week. Grace is like, that was amazing. And I'm like,
Oh, snap. Well, a lot of creativity, a lot of productivity. It can be exhausting. But yeah, so fantastic roots on the writing side. That's such a cool story. I didn't know. I completely forgot that Adventures in Odyssey. That I forgot that connection. That's really cool. But I do. So from the genre perspective, from the actual world building itself, I do have to give a disclaimer. A lot of people have attributed the Isles of Aura to me. That's not 100% accurate. It started with Tyler Kleitz and Nan and Z, two
Legends.
two are, in my opinion, two of the greatest builders of all time. These guys are phenomenal. But their model, Aurora, that's what it was called. It's beautiful. Go look it up. Outstanding. Meant to be a one-time creation, not a genre. And when I saw it, I thought this should be a genre. I love this. I love the style. I love the color. I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere was beautiful. And for me, I thought, okay, this has got to be a new thing. So I started making my own islands that look very similar to the Aurora ones, a little bit too similar. But quickly and steadily, the design looked different. I went for more historical. I love castle. I love steampunk. I like pirates too a bit. And that time period is always very fascinating for me. And it started to catch on, and people really liked it. And Graham and Gareth, you guys are a part of that little subgenre group of steampunk. So, do you guys want to talk about those builds a little bit that you guys were involved with, perhaps?
for Isles of Aura or Wandering Skies?
Both. Start with Isles of Aura.
Well, for Aurora, I remember when Tyler had his build Aurora, and I remember when you were creating Isles of Aura. I remember it was originally you called it Worlds of Wind, but then we couldn't keep the acronym because we didn't want to get confused with World of Warcraft. So we were like, to be honest, I still voted for Worlds of Wind. I thought that sounded really cool. I was never fully set on switching it to Isles of Aura. But yeah, I remember the Isles of Aura thing was really cool. At the time, you had like two I think really influential builds in the beginning of like really capturing people's heart and imagination on it. So then like as Nova Lug, which the lug we were both in or are in, we didn't leave. We just kind of decided let's create this like it's kind of like a constant collab, or I guess like just kind of a world that's lug based. I still think you've probably produced 80% of the content for it. I've built like 2 things for it.
I've built
8 years. So like I don't know. My heart would build more, but I just always had something else to do on it. But
yeah, I've only built one thing for it, and that was a microscale for the Novalo contest. So
hey, I
so
remember
like it's you're pointing us out here, and we have like just very little to show for it.
But you guys love
genre
Lego. This is something you would
the genre is something that I really love, and I found that to be kind of a funny thing when Greg approached me initially. It was shortly after he approached Grace. He came to me, was like, "Hey, do you want to maybe design for this show?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then in our initial phone conversation, I was like, "Do you know what Isles of Aura is?" Because like, and he was like, "Yes, I do." But so in all honesty, I've actually built probably more floating islands, or I have actually at this point, I built more floating islands or in the floating island genre for Wandering Skies than I have for Isles of Aura, though that world holds a special place in my heart just because of it's some of my favorite builds over the last 10 years have been in that world, you know, and it was kind of our group who made it and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I don't even remember what question I'm answering with this, but that's my thoughts on Wandering.
I'm sorry. I was purely. This is about your connection to the theme and to the genre, and like that little origin story there. Because I don't. You guys weren't really involved in the writing room. It was just Greg and Grace essentially.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
We certainly have voice and influence, like writing and storyline, but the initial writing thing, no. We weren't involved in that process. We were a lot more we're design focused on that side.
I gotcha. Yeah, and all of that being said, let's talk about the vision of Wandering Skies. Greg, where do you want to go with this project? What's the blueprint? What's the roadmap? What is this going to look like? Where are people gonna see this project? And like, what's the pathway we're taking here?
Great question. So leave it to me to always come up with things that are like absurdly ambitious. I think we could probably make the claim that Monitogo Studio still has produced maybe the biggest or perhaps the most epic Lego stop motion brick film to date, probably with Bound. I don't know. There could be some out there that I'm not aware of which would surpass that, but I'd be surprised if there was. So, that was a huge 6-year endeavor for us. And what we want to do with Wandering Skies is we want to blow Bound out of the water. Like, Bound was large in its scope. There's more than 65 individual set locations in that film. So there's more sets than there are minutes in the movie. Bound is a traveling film, so you have a lot of sets where it's, characters traveling across a given landscape, and that's maybe 5 seconds of film, 10 seconds of film for a shot, but it's not even recurring again. So a lot of sort of locations in the movie Bound. Wandering Skies is even bigger. So ultimately, what we are building here is intended to be a 4-season TV show of 8 25-minute episodes per season. If the show does well enough, we would consider even expanding the number of episodes in future seasons. Yeah, so see how happy Grace is? The writer's like, give me room.
And the money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, but the minimum goal, right, is 4 seasons of 8 25-minute episodes. And part of what inspired us with Avatar: The Last Airbender was that, Konietzko and DiMartino, they built that show. They knew exactly what they were doing with the story from season 1, episode 1 to the final episode of season 3. And so everything was spelled out in the big story arcs and then in the season story arcs and then all the way down to like the episode or dual episode arcs. And that's what we wanted to do with Wandering Skies. I think there's a lot of shows where people do a first season, they don't know how it's going to go. It does pretty well. And they're like, oh, let's write a season 2. And then they're just making it up on the fly without that sort of foundational development. So we knew, even if we never get funded to do future seasons, we wanted to be prepared. So we've done the work to lay out all the foundations of the story for 4 full seasons. Ooh, say that 5 fast. Okay, yeah. For 4 seasons of the show. And we're talking a runtime of 12 or more hours of brick film, like longer than the Lord of the Rings extended editions in terms of runtime. So brick film is
the only version, Greg.
Yeah, the only version. That's right. I own all of them. I have the collector's edition of all the extended, in 16 hours behind the scenes. So I get it. We're not being hoity-toity here, all right? We just have standards, people, standards. So yeah, no, not at all. It was a Christmas gift. So here's the thing with Wandering Skies is brick film is so often treated as a short form medium, in part because stop motion is difficult to produce. Like, there's no way around that. It's just hard. It takes a lot of time. But let's look at this and say, well, why can't this be a medium like paint is to an artist? Like, there's no reason we can't paint our version of the Sistine Chapel, and that can be more than 12 hours of brick film. And so that's what we're looking for down the road. And in terms of expansiveness, and we want this to be like nothing you've ever seen. I mean, there's some amazingly large Lego builds out there, and we want you to see an entire world. So not desktop size. I mean, we're talking like warehouse size in terms of what we're looking for production here. We want to fund season 1 for a minimum of 1.5 million. And that will allow us to produce this show at the scale and at the level of detail and complexity that it deserves, and that I think the story deserves, and that this entire thing has been created for. So that's the long-term goal. And then season 1, the production timeline we'd like is a 1-year production timeline with probably a staggered release following that. And then as season 1 comes out, we'll roll into the following seasons with the goal of doing 4 full seasons of this with potentially expanded episodes per season down the road.
Fantastic. So yeah, that's wonderful, wonderful outline. Let's talk about the story and the world itself. We're going to have a lot of characters. We're going to have very in-depth stories, subplots, sub-stories, that sort of thing. I think we'll start with Grace. What is the story going to be like? And what is the world going to be like? And how does that tie into Lego?
Yeah, okay. So the story, when I came to it in the beginning, it was pretty much just a couple characters and sort of an outline and stuff. So then it was cultural development. It was, what's our internal conflict, our external conflict. We wanted this story to be very character forward. If you can take any story with any medium, and if you ground it in a well-written character that resonates with people, Pixar was really good at this. They took inanimate objects, they took fish, and they gave them personalities and deep, meaningful stories, and you were like ready to go to the ends of the earth for these characters. So we really tried to take that inspiration into how we told our story. So we kind of lead out, our main character is a single mother, which is something I have personal experience with for my mother and some other people that I know. And then she has a young son, he's 10 years old. He has Asperger's. So that adds a whole layer of unique traits that he has, things he's really good at, things that he really struggles with. And then we drop them into an extremely unusual world where resources are scarce, where it's kind of every man for himself. There's a lot of cultural divides. There's just all kinds of things. And not to mention like the dangers of the geographic world. You could fall off an island and die. I mean, it's just death is all around you constantly. So that would be hard enough as it is. But then you have all these extra layers that come in from being a single mother, from having a child with unique needs. And then kind of like our kickoff point for the show is that Ash is the son. Rebecca and Ash Walker are kind of our title characters. Ash has created a new technology, and this is a coal-powered steampunk world, so everybody runs on coal. Ash is a brilliant genius mechanic, and he has created a new technology that pretty much anybody, if they found out about it, would want. So that is the tension that we are pulled into in the very beginning, and then we see all these other factions come in, other characters. We've got pirates, Imperials. We have a culture called the Low Islanders, who are kind of a mix of like Eastern European cultures and a little bit of Irish culture. They're very colorful, fun. We have outcasts who are based off of Scottish clans. So, and then all kinds of stuff mixed in there. So yeah, the scope of it is huge. I've never written something this big before. I keep this giant master document with every character name for every character who has a name and their backstory and their details. I have the encyclopedia of Wandering Skies. I've developed animal science. I mean, we are really trying to create something where a kid or an adult with, a childlike wonder for the world can walk in and fall in love with this place, enjoy the story we've created, but then be inspired to create themselves and kind of like go play in that world themselves. And to me, that's the greatest tie-in over into using the medium of Lego, is that it beckons people to come and play and explore. And our world does the same thing. So I feel like those two things go together so well. And we've written a story that's serious enough and deep enough that an adult would enjoy it, but it's also charming enough and exciting and playful enough that a child would enjoy it. So we're trying to create a place that the whole family can come and play, whether it's watching our story or being inspired by it and then maybe making their own builds or having their own play times. We want there to be something for everybody. And that's kind of what I see in Wandering Skies. So I'll let the other guys talk a little bit about the build aspect of it, because that's really more their expertise than it is mine.
So I see.
Oh, is that us?
Oh, one sec. So I see a timer. Do we want to restart?
We have about 9 minutes. If we want to go till we just have like a couple minutes left, then we'll restart from there.
Okay, not to put a timer on you guys for extra nervousness, but yeah, let's move over to Graham and Gareth. What this is a story told with Lego. What goes into that? Like, is this a genre you guys like have built with and enjoy? Tell us about that.
Well, first, Graham started first. Like Greg called him first, and then I came in through initiative and hard work, free labor.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like Grace went first as a writer, and then I was shortly thereafter as a builder. Mm-hmm. But like even before Gareth was officially part of the thing, Gareth was kind of part of the brain trust of it, because Gareth's been my what do you call it?
Right hand man.
It's been my Lego buddy for like for a number of years.
Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde.
No.
Frank and Joe Hardy.
Gareth, you're a great
All
guy,
right.
man.
There you go.
He's my Bucky to my Captain America. We'll go with that. Yeah.
Oh,
works.
okay. All right.
That
all
works.
right.
That works.
I
That
live
works.
longer.
Yeah, he didn't even give you Falcon, Bucky, right? Like you could have
There
at
you
least
go.
been Falcon. Who would
like
take
Bucky,
the
but
mantle down the road?
I like Bucky more than I like Falcon. So that was actually a nice thing for me. That was like a compliment.
Yeah, same.
But, anyway, so like Gareth was kind of already part of the brain trust anyway. Like if I'm working on something, I would be like, Gareth, come look at this. You know what I mean? In the sense that he was already playing a part in the design thing, even though it wasn't official and it didn't even Greg didn't even necessarily know that he was. But Gareth was already there, kind of just being what he was always being, my Lego buddy. And we would talk and think about things, and I would get his opinion on stuff. But then you want to continue the part?
So then
we actually did get involved.
Yeah,
officially.
so then we were working on digital Lego software, right, to produce models for Greg. And so Greg asked Graham to do some models. And then I was like, okay, well, we're going to need microscale models for this, for background shots of wandering skies. And so I was like, I might as well get, number one, used to the digital software we were using, because I've never used it before. And, you know, that's a marketable skill you can get easily. And then I started working with designs on it. And then I guess it's just kind of slowly I got brought in from then on. So that's how we got here. But to answer your question was,
Talking about the story.
yeah, building in the world of wandering skies.
Yeah.
We haven't had a lot of previous experience with microscale islands. Obviously,
or minifigure scale.
or minifigure scale, or just any floating island. We've
seen a lot.
We've seen a lot. Graham's shown me a lot because he's usually on social media more. But we really didn't dive into it until 2.5 years ago, in which we started working with it. We started feeling out the different pressures of it, the different just struggles with microscale or floating islands. You know, a floating island you have to see the bottom of, or you know, gravity is a way bigger feature on floating islands. The feeling of steampunk as well. We were usually Castle or Star Wars, right? And so steampunk is a very different aesthetic than Castle or Star Wars. And so the building process has really been sorting out what we classify as steampunk, how it will be presented on the show, and really trying to figure out each other's styles as we're working on this, because I'm a very good is good enough, let's get the next thing done because we have a timeline. Graham's very, let's pause and take a look at this and let's make sure it's as close to perfect as we can get.
It's been very interesting working together, because Gareth and I have not worked together on even though we've been Lego like buddies for a long time, we've never really worked on a large scale project together. We've tried a few collaborations together, but those, you know, went anyway. So with the they were okay. I mean, might have been a little friction,
nice.
but
you got too hard on yourselves. So.
This is the larger scale project we've done together. So it's been very interesting just seeing the difference of, like, I've known you my whole life, and I just never realized the difference in which we approach problems or you know, designing or things. Like he's saying, we have two very different approaches to it, and it balance each other out well, because I like always go the extra mile, stay focused, let's try. And Gareth's like, that passed, like we finished, like we checked the box, that's good.
That's at least a B on a test. Let's go to the next test.
It's very interesting. So we kind of hold each other in check. But the world itself, in terms of your question about like what is it like to design in this, it's been very interesting because we honestly have really just, I feel like, scratched the surface on the design of the world. We've done a lot of our work remote from each other. I haven't seen Greg once in person the whole time I've been working on this. And so I feel like a lot of that work, we've done some of it up to this point to create the necessary models that we've needed so far in the show. But like, there's just so much that you have to think about when you're designing a world. You're creating the visuals for it. So like, it's down to the smallest thing. Water, how do you get water on a floating island? We don't just have waterfalls that go into nothing, you know, as the popular idea is. So like, houses need gutter systems where they can catch rainwater. And so you have to figure out how to design that. Or boats need to actually make sense as to why they fly. or, you know, just why do islands float? What do trees look like? What does it look like at different altitudes? What does it look like at different distances from each other? So there's so much in the design world that I personally love. I'm a very visual person. Like Grace has spent so much time writing this, you know, and getting into the world of that. And I really do appreciate that side of things. I'm very interested in it as well, but like I'm a very visual person in terms of what I want to do with creativity. I'm sure you can attest to that, Stephen, being also a Lego person. So like I'm thinking very focused on like, how does the world look? How does it make you feel? One of the most incredible things about like the Lego movie, which it did, you know, what everybody was so amazed is like the whole world is Lego, you know? And so you see like you are a minifigure in a world of Lego and it's perfect to scale. And just seeing how they like use pieces to flesh out the world or things like that. I love that in the Lego Batman movie, how they made some of the sets because they would be very interesting with their parts usage. And so that's my biggest like focus, or at least interest in it, is just the fleshing out of the world and the actual creating of it, because there's really nothing like a tangible Lego stop motion. Like the Lego movie was so good and so exciting, it's the reason why it was so popular, but like it wasn't real. Like that was still, you could still tell it was animation. And there's just nothing quite like that tangible feel of the Lego. Like if you go watch Atlas, I think is the perfect example of this. Atlas was, I think, the most cinematic stop motion I've seen in terms of it was real, almost, I don't know how much percentage wise it would be, but everything you saw in the forefront was real, and it really, you could feel it. And you could just know that like that was an actual set that Greg actually filmed on.
Which is another good reason Lego and steampunk will work together, is because steampunk's also a very textural and very gritty, and it has a lot of feeling to it. And Lego has the same thing. Like with animation, it's animation. You can tell that, right? But with Lego, you will know it's real. And there's almost like a harshness to Lego that fits in the steampunk world so well.
So that's what I'm super excited about, is creating the experience, because I really enjoyed the Lego movie and I really enjoyed like Atlas, for example. And just so it's creating that floating island steampunk experience in that world where like half the reason you're watching the show is just because I can't experience this anywhere else. This is so cool. This is tangible Lego. Minifigures are running around, you know, and things like that. That's my biggest appreciation of the genre.
Hmm. So we are back. We are back for part 2. We have a few more. I got a list here. We got a few more questions we're going to run through, and then and then we'll go from there. But Greg, I'll pass the question on to you. Specifically, how does this tie into this project, Wandering Skies? How does it tie into Lego as a medium?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question to ask, since it's just such a fundamental part of the development of this show. Part of what attracts us as a team to using Lego as a medium is the fact that steampunk is textural and it's tangible. It's something that, you know, is very interactive based, and so is Lego. In addition to that, the world of Wandering Skies is a world that is fractured. It's in pieces, both physically and culturally. And some of our characters are kind of in pieces. And so the idea that you have Lego, which is a medium that can be in pieces and then be reassembled into something better, that's the same thing that the story of Wandering Skies is telling. It's about a fractured world that needs to be reunited. And so Lego is in that sense like the perfect parallel to telling this same story. In addition to that, it's a very tangible medium. Like you can quite literally physically see it, touch it, interact with it. Stop motion is like that too, right? It's something where you could reach out into the screen almost and like touch what's there, because as amazing as CGI is and all of these incredible forms of filmmaking that we have, it never is quite the same thing as reality, right? So the fact that you physically have characters there that are lit in the real world, that are being taken, pictures are being taken of them with the camera, right? That's a different level of interactive capability for the viewer, and Lego is the same thing. So while we have this world that needs to be rebuilt, people could then follow along and use Lego as a medium to either build things inspired by the show, to rebuild things from the show, and it gives them that tangible experience in conjunction with enjoying the emotional journey of the characters that are in the show. So we think that there's a lot of tie-ins that make Lego a great medium to tell this story specifically. And we're going to make sure that we lean into some of the Lego specific humor along the way and enjoy the medium, and we're not just using it as per se an inexpensive medium to produce the story. It has very foundational parallels that we think help elevate the storytelling of Wandering Skies.
And this is something I'll just tag in real quick. Something unique about Greg that he communicated to me years ago is his ability to see the potential for a big story with a small, humble medium, so to speak. You know, he doesn't see it as a creative limitation. He's like, there's no reason why this can't be just as powerful a story as, say, you know, Star Wars was, or Star Trek, or, you know, Jurassic Park, whatever your big story is. And so the ability to take that vision into something that people have such a fondness for, it's a part of their childhood, it's a part of some of their sweetest memories, it's a part of their creativity and imagination, I think is unique. And it's a vision that Greg's really tried to cast for the team. And I feel like we've been able to pick up and like create this magnificent thing that is Wandering Skies.
We want to just elevate a humble medium.
There you go. And I'll echo that. When you guys approached me to be on the project, I immediately jumped at it because from a builder's perspective, from an enthusiast perspective, somebody who genuinely loves Lego and has built an entire brand upon it, apparently, I jumped at it because, first of all, the genre, you've got everything you'd want. You have ships, you have armies, you have pirates, you have islands, you have upside down mountains, you have swamplands, you have architecture, beautiful cities we're planning, and all these other amazing things that absolutely speak to me as a builder. It's very inspiring, and I absolutely love the medium as well for on the cinematic level. Stop and Go is really special because it's animation and live action at the same time, and animation has its own strengths, live action has its own strengths. You can blur the two of them, and that's why it's relevant today. Stop and Go is rare, but it is still relevant medium. And I really like that. And Lego is more popular than it's ever been. And like you guys were saying, kids can watch this and they can put this together and they can literally like, oh, I want this character, but I want to do other stuff. I want to add my own stories and stuff like that. It'll inspire millions. And I remember from Lego Masters, Greg, the show has not aired. At the time of this video, the show has not aired, but you will be receiving these messages. People will be sending you pictures of what their kids have built based on the challenges. People were showing me stuff that they built, that their kids built, and then they wanted to share it with me, and
That's great.
had the chance to interact with the fans that way. And
Very
I know
cool.
it'd be the same for Wandering Skies, and that's something I really love, and something I've learned to love even more, is to inspire other people when they build. When I build, I'll inspire other people to create even more. And being able to reach out to so many has been amazing, and this is that story all over again. So yeah, it's for the Lego medium, it's kind of like it fits, so many gloves fit so many hands so perfectly. So an accomplishment there, and I'm super excited. I've always loved Wallace and Gromit. I've always loved the tangible, it's real, but it's not. There's so much adventure and fun at the same time. It's that sounds jarring, but it works so well. It's interesting how that plays out. That being said, we have an amazing story. We have an amazing cast of people, and we have even more people who are, in the conversation to be on this project. We've got an amazing script, amazing team writing the script, and we've got some other amazing stuff. We have all of this in hand. Greg, what happens next? What's next in store?
So what we've spent the last 2.5 years doing is building up this world, these characters, these cultures, the design of what is Wandering Skies, because it's an original world. So you have to make, as Graham pointed out earlier, and as Grace has said more than once, you have to make everything up along the way, but it needs to be, as elevated as the story is, it needs to be grounded in reality. So that's where we've been the last 2.5 years. And what that's leading up to now is a couple of big things for us. The first one is we have a Kickstarter coming up in a couple of weeks, which we're going to drop. And what we want to do in that Kickstarter is raise the remaining funds to finish producing the pitch. So there's about 7 minutes of animation that we need to produce for the pitch. Again, not inexpensive, as we pointed out previously. And there's some more set building. There's character design. So actually a lot of the key characters have already been designed, but we need to get them custom printed as minifigures or our own custom minifigs. And there's some more set design that has to happen. And then that pitch will all go into a package, which we will then pitch out to film studios to partner with us in producing season 1 of the show. So we have first kind of a top of the line pick for us right now is a group called Angel Studios, and they produce really family friendly type content, like stories of light is what they like to call it, something you could absolutely sit down and watch with your kids, but not children's entertainment. Let's be clear here. Like, this is not a show for children. It is a show for families. It's totally safe for children, but maybe like a Pixar film deals with adult level storytelling and sort of adult level questions. And so a broad range of people can be interested in the story that we're telling. So we're going to go on and release this Kickstarter. Hopefully the Kickstarter gets funded. We finish producing the pitch. And then from the pitch, we partner with the studio. And that leads into the development and production of season 1.
All right, fantastic. Well, I think that covers everything, unless anyone has a last minute something or other they wanna bring up. But
I'll throw this out here because it's a pretty exciting announcement. I don't know if we've brought this up previously yet, but in case we haven't, we've actually secured Kurt Heinecke to be the composer for Wandering Skies, both for the pitch and also the first season. If you're not familiar with him, he has been composing for huge projects for decades now. He composed the music for the hit show VeggieTales for many years. And he's also the lead composer for the new Wingfeather Saga TV show that's being produced off of a wildly popular kids fantasy series. And he was very interested in what we were doing with Wandering Skies and said, yes, I'm on board with this project. So he's already in the wings, just waiting to have footage to compose to, which we're really excited about because he's an exceptionally skilled musician and composer. And so you can expect some really brilliant music as part of the world development and ultimately the show that is Wandering Skies Down the Road. So that's a little bit longer term thing that we're very excited about. And then of course, in the near term, the Kickstarter for the pitch.
all right, well, that's amazing info. I remember when you mentioned that to me not long ago, I was just over the moon. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy? I didn't recognize the name, but everyone recognized the material. So
The pressure, we're like, we have to build for Kurt Heinecke.
oh man, yeah.
Forget Greg, it's Kurt Heinecke
Right,
that we're
Yeah, there should be a few more names in the future as well. We'll keep an eye out for those. But yeah, I think that's a wrap. I think that covers everything. Guys, thank you so much. This is going to be such a cool experience, such an awesome project that we're fleshing out, and everything is seems to be coming together. And yeah, I guess we will say goodbye to you, the viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.